Welcome. Scott here. Here is a quick boss guide for the upcoming LUFENIA Plus event, King of Destruction Heretics. This event will feature the last unit to get an LD, King from Final Fantasy Type 0. The featured units for the event are King himself, Jegran from Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, Rinoa from Final Fantasy VIII and Vincent from Final Fantasy VII. Both Jegran and King will be getting their C90 awakenings and reworks. We will be fighting a King Behemoth. The King Behemoth has 40 million HP. The turn requirement is 55. The HP requirements is 15,000. Before I continue further, here is a small disclaimer clause for the video. The guide is written based on the time that the event was released for the Japanese version. Please do note that it is possible that the boss fight mechanics might differ when the actual event is released in global. Firstly, let's go through the LUFENIA Plus Orb conditions. In the JP timeline, this is also the last LUFENIA Plus fight that we are going to have before we embark on a new era. The LUFENIA Plus will activate at the start of the fight. It is a non-cancelable orb. The orb attack is a fatal attack. The orb will downtick by 1 per party action. To uptick the orb, you need to recover 2 or more abilities in one action. Make sure you have at least used one of each ability before you use the restore ability to recover them. The last time that we have this kind of orb is during Shellcare release event. Now the available units have significantly grown a lot. Examples of units can recover constantly through their normal rotations are King with his reload command. Ishtala, Vayne and Yuri can recover 2 abilities with their EX. On the right, you can see units that can recover skills with their LD are Garnet, Shellcat, Prompto, and Squall. Now let's proceed with some party setup recommendations. Recommended calls abilities. To ensure that you are able to constantly break them, it is important to inflict defense down debuffs. Example of calls abilities that inflict defense down calls are Ferris, Titus, Jack, and Vanille. To speed up the fight, using HP damage up debuff calls like Karasame, Seymour, Fran, Ignis, Lily-Set, Maria, and Dark Knight Cecil are useful. Although a bit trickier to use, Aura-type HP damage up calls like Kumari, Alisai, Kriish, Leo and Locke are also viable. Most recently C90 units have Aura-type HP damage up bonuses. You can use Dissidia DB Call Finder to find out more. As the boss can warp their turns with 3 consecutive turns, damage mitigation or evasion calls will be useful here. They are Edge, Redia, Rajin, and Cater. Next, I will be covering units that will be useful to handle the fight mechanics. Like other LUFENIA Plus events, it is always recommended to bring supports for their aura and buffs. They are Garnet, Ramza, Purim, Setzer, Agrias, Katsa, Queen, Ishtala, Yuna, Ram, Lyud, and Siren. Garnet BT Plus support will help to trivialize the fight that you could finish the fight before you worry about the boss mechanics. Lila will make bulk of the boss attacks a non-issue. If you don't want to play to the orb, you can bring Echo for the fight. Garnet and Agrias can recover 2 skills with their LD. Ishtala can recover 2 abilities with her EX. As the fight features lots of HP attacks, you can bring some damage mitigation support for your party. They are Snow, Kor, Warrior of Light, Celis, Beatrix, Orin, Zack. Evasion tank like Edge, Prompto, and Golub are useful here. Golub can recover 2 skills with his AA. Prompto can recover 2 skills with his LD. The fight requires you to use skill refillers to uptick the orb. An important reminder is that make sure you use abilities first before you use the recovery ability. King can recover his abilities with his reload command. Units that can recover 2 abilities with their EX are Isthola, Vayne, Dark Knight Cecil and Yuri. Examples of units that can recover abilities with their LD are Bald here, Squall, Shellcat, Kuja and Kane. You can also recover abilities with their A like Selpha, Quistis, and Echo. The boss can warp in their turns at 49% and 29% HP threshold, As their attacks are non-guaranteed hit, you can to bring evasion units to dodge their attacks. You can consider bringing Edge, Leela, Rinoa, Cater, Shadow, Kane, 8, Edward, Sice or Freya. The boss can buy themselves with 5 buffs with Mighty Roar. Buff dispellers such as Pain, Vanille, Cloud, Seymour, Arcela, and Sid Reigns will be useful here. You can also bring buff negation with Aerith or Yuffie. Vincent BT Aura will also negate buff gains. Vincent also shut down the boss damage output with his initial Brave and attack down debuffs. On the screen, you will see a timeline showing the HP thresholds triggers that you need to watch out for. The LUFENIA Aura and stats boosts are triggered at the start of the fight and 79%. You should be quite familiar with the boss mechanics if you have played the recent LUFENIA Plus event, Cloudy with the chance of Meteor where Charlotta and Selphie getting their C90 awakenings. At the 49% and 29%, the boss will use cut in turn order where they will warp their turn and gain 2 instant turns, thus allow them to act 3 consecutive times. The Behemoth has a standard rotation cycle, which I will explain in detail later. 3 out of the moves are HP attacks. It is also noted that the boss will enact a 1 million HP shield after it uses Mighty Roar. If you don't break the shield, it will use Meteor Plus, which is a Brave gain, AoE HP attack followed up with another Brave gain, AoE HP attack. This fight doesn't have any complex mechanics and is a pretty straightforward fight. However, it is a single target fight against a HP sponge though. Now let's proceed with the boss mechanics proper. Like the previous LUFENIA Plus fights, the boss will gain stats boosts and Brave gain reduction auras when you deplete the boss's HP to a certain threshold. The thresholds trigger for this fight is at the start of the fight and 79% HP thresholds. At the start of the fight, it will boost its defense stats by 200%. At 79% HP threshold, it will further boost its defense stats to 300%. The maximum reduction auras for Brave damage and Brave gain are 70%. To handle the defense stats boost, you can inflict defense down calls. To handle the Brave gain reductions, you can bring a Brave gain up support like Agrias, Ram, or Quistis. With the recent units released, you shouldn't have any problem in handling the auras. Now, I will be covering the boss key mechanics in detail. At the 49% and 29%, the boss will trigger cut in turn order where it will warp its turn forward and gain 2 consecutive turns. This can be dangerous if you are unprepared for its incoming attacks, as bulk of the boss moveset consists mostly HP attacks. Now let's focus on King Behemoth's attack cycle rotation. The Behemoth will always start off with Heave, which is a Brave gain single target HP attack. After Heave, it will follow up immediately with Mighty Roar where it gains 5 buffs, which includes 1% HP regen buff, thus restoring 400k per turn. This is immediately followed up with a 1 million HP shield. The game will also give you a warning after that. Next, it will follow up with Gyro Tail, a Brave gain with gain overflow, AoE HP attack. If you break the shield, it will use Meteor, which is a Brave gain with max Brave overflow, Brave plus HP attack. If you don't break the shield, it will use Meteor Plus, which is a Brave gain, AoE HP attack followed up with another Brave gain, HP attack. This attack can bypass Last Stand passive. The Behemoth will remove the shield after this attack. After the Meteor attack, the Behemoth will reset the cycle and starts off another cycle with the Heave attack. Now I have reached the last slide of my boss guide presentation. Generally, this fight doesn't have any complex mechanics other than the boss will warp its turn with 2 consecutive turns. Depending on the turn that the boss takes, it is most likely you will face Meteor Plus in the attack. Thus, damage mitigation is the safest option for the fight. Damage mitigators like Zac, Beatrix, Warrior of Light, Celis, Corum, and Raijin are useful here. You can also choose to evade the attacks with Leela, Rinoa, and Edge. Leela is pretty good here as her warp mechanics after evasion will help you to give the turns to break the shield while also keeping the turn count low. The boss attacks rely on brave gains that scales of the boss initial brave stats. Under then applying initial brave and attack down to nerf its damage, you can shut it down with freeze buff from Setzer, Cater LDCA. Arsila LD and Yuffie X debuff can prevent brave gains. Lastly, as refill skills are limited, don't spam them unnecessary. Use them when you need to uptick the orb. With this, I have come to the end of my boss guide presentation. Hopefully you find it useful. If you like the video, please give a like. Please subscribe to my channel for future gaming content. Good luck for the fight tomorrow. Bye.